My name is Larry Kuhn, and I'm the General Manager and Lead Instructor of Sports Business Classroom. I'm inviting you to participate in a unique opportunity to break into basketball. Sports Business Classroom is immersed in the NBA Summer League in Las Vegas, Nevada. And when I say immersed, I mean we're right there in the arena, bringing NBA movers and shakers into our classroom and putting you right into the Summer League action. Sports Business Classroom is the best of all worlds. Great academics, challenging assignments, hands-on work at Summer League, and the chance to start building your network of league connections. It's an experience you can get nowhere else. Have you ever dreamed of working in NBA basketball? Don't just wish it will happen, make it happen. Space is limited, so jumpstart your career today by visiting sportsbusinessclassroom.com.
All right, welcome back, everyone. This is our fourth episode of our No Trade Clause draft coverage, our first episode post-draft. And we're going to get right into it here. We're going to start firing off our opinions, winners, losers. My name's Oliver Ruda. As usual, I'm here with Dan Purcell. Dan, how we doing?
Sad that it's over. Sad that the draft is over. Excited for Victor Wembanyama. Super excited next year for him. But mixed emotions as we'll go through in this draft. And obviously, don't forget everybody that's listening, NoTradeClause.com. They are the, I'm telling you, the best place for free agency coming up. These guys are unbelievable. I'm so happy I get to do stuff with Oliver and Aaron and everybody here at No Trade Clause. You guys are awesome. And if you're listening to this podcast, you know for a fact how good they are. And we're just going to give free alpha away here, just nonstop.
Well, we definitely appreciate that, Dan. And as they say, one door closes, another opens, right? So we've already seen the 2023 cycle. Some people are already putting their head into the film and getting to it. So looking forward to the content coming out with that. Looking forward to the start of the college season. That'll, all the buzz will start probably in around September for that. I know we're starting to see a lot of schedules come out already, a lot of non-con tournaments. So I've already got Duke, Ohio State circled for is it ACC Big Ten?
Yep.
And Indiana UNC should be really good as well. So
that should be another good one.
Yeah,
you got to think North Carolina comes into this next year as the favorites with the guys they returned and whatnot. I mean, you got to think they are. But we'll get to all that later. Let's talk about what happened, man. Talk about what happened.
Let's do it. So first and foremost, I want to start right at the top with Orlando. They ran probably one of the tightest ships of a draft process that I think we've seen in recent history. Having everyone thinking one thing and then going one direction the next morning for those who didn't really keep tabs on what was happening for several weeks leading up to the draft. All signs were pointing to Orlando picking Jabari Smith. That was just the headlines around media for the past few weeks. And the morning of the draft, I'm sitting at a workout in a gym, and then someone comes up to me and goes, "Did you see what happened in Vegas?" And I was like, "No, what happened?" He says, "All the odds flipped for the first pick. It's all going to Paolo now." I was like, "No way! That's just smoke, man. Don't buy that. Put your money on Jabari. People are just trying to mess with you." And lo and behold, I was wrong. So Paolo ended up going number 1, despite a lot of the buzz from the pre-draft, and a lot of people were kind of scratching their heads, why? What's the point of all the smoke? Given Orlando has the first overall pick, how can anyone really touch them? Dan, I'm curious your thoughts. Why did Orlando feel the need to run such a covert operation?
Well, was it covert? I mean, or were they just undecided? If, again, I wasn't in the war room or their process, but if it was this major covert operation, it was one of the best in NBA history. I think that I've been in these situations, not with the number 1 pick, but when the Pelicans picked Anthony Davis, it was pretty easy who was going to be number 1, right? Nobody was worried about that. But there's just something not right for me in this process. It's hard for me to maybe put my head around that this was planned and this was the way that they wanted it to be, and they were going Paolo the whole time, because they have to think that he is a game changer, right? Like he's a franchise changer, because I was putting out on Twitter, their 3-point field goal percentage was like one of the worst in the league. Their attempts were middle of the road, but they couldn't make it, right? So they're taking a lot, but they're not making any. And you already have Cole Anthony and Jalen Suggs, and you already have guys like, I don't know what they're going to do with Mo Bamba, obviously, but and then you have the injuries that have kept them down, and maybe they just thought that everybody could work together, and that was a good way to do it. I struggle with it mostly because it's a 3-point shooting league, and they don't have any 3-point shooters. You're going to lose more games just because you're straight getting out. There's just more firepower. Unless they think Paolo can turn into a 40% 3-point shooter, I think it's going to be really, 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 really tough to unlock. You're going to have to overhaul the whole roster. Literally, is what I'm saying. It's like you have to literally get rid of Cole Anthony is gone, Mo Bamba's gone, Jalen Suggs, if he can coexist, because he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Jonathan Isaac, is he going to be able to hit shots? Like, if it's if they have the blessing from ownership for a multi-year rebuild, then I get this. I like Paolo a lot. I mean, you literally could have taken any three of these guys and been happy. I mean, that's how close it was, right? But there's something not sitting right with me about it. I hope he works at it. I hope the Magic get a fine. You know what I mean? I hope that was the guy, and because they're gonna it's gonna hurt bad if he's not that guy. And then you watch Jabari Smith turn into that guy. It's going to be a really hard pill to swallow moving forward.
Yeah. And so if Paolo was their guy all along, and they did run this, hypothetically, if they did run this covert operation, I think what it does do is it's not necessarily what Orlando gains from running a tight ship, keeping lips sealed. I think it more so just keeps the teams behind them, and it keeps an Oklahoma City, a Houston on their toes to kind of go into their action plans that we talked about in the last podcast. You're testing their draft process. You're forcing them to stick to their guns. Going into actions plans B or C, it may be a little more likely that these organizations could make a impulsive, short-sighted decision. If a certain trade call comes in, you may be more likely to listen to it if you're on action plan B or C versus if the guy you want is there. Right. So I think it maintains it coincides with the competitive landscape of the league, right? Just as these teams are competing on the court, the front offices are competing all the time too. You're trying to get a leg up on the next team in whatever way you can, whether it's free agency or in situations like this in the draft. So if that was the case where they were set on Paolo all along, I think that they were just doing whatever they could to get a competitive advantage on some of the other rebuilding teams.
Sure. I mean, that's a lot of moving pieces. It's hard to predict what everybody else is doing. That's the hardest part, right?
Yeah.
For me, I'm looking at it like if I'm Oklahoma City, they know who they want, and they know that any three of these guys, if we end up with any three of these guys, we're going to be fine. Houston is the same way. Houston, why trade up? The only team that I could see that would trade up is Sacramento. Like, that's the only team that I would have gone after, per se. I don't think Houston would. Like, what is it? What's in it for Houston to trade up to one? Nothing. They're smart. These are smart guys. Like, I think sometimes we discount how smart everybody is in these front offices, right? And Houston, like, they're not dumb. They know. They're like, we get who's ever left over. Like, if it's Chet, if it's Jabari, if it's Paolo, like, we're happy with it all. Like, we just need talent. And this is three guys who are all, like, super even. And then OKC's not going to give you. They don't need to move up to 1 for any reason whatsoever. So I get what you're saying. I just don't know that. Like I'm trying to figure out who the trade partner is, who's the smokescreen for, and yeah, I guess ethics and not ethics, but like you got to play the game, as you say, you got to play the game, and if that was the case, they did an amazing job. I don't know. I don't know what
Yeah,
happened,
and it's
but
just even harder like nowadays with all the media and out there and everyone
so hard.
analyzing and especially with all the people on these staffs now, all the people involved in the draft process, like
Yep.
it would take a lot to keep something like this in. And I really want to believe that that is the case because it would be such an impressive feat. And so unless I hear otherwise, that's what I'm going to roll with.
I just something's not sitting right with me. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's right or
Mhm.
wrong. It's just something's off here.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm sure more will come out about it probably in the next few days, but let's kind of dive into the rest of the draft. Look at it more from a macro lens. Some of the hauls that the teams got back. We got a few teams that we've highlighted for winners and losers. So let's just dive right in. The first one that I think probably the most obvious that people have picked up on is Detroit. Detroit going and getting two guys in the first round who they had targeted really the whole time. It really swings the whole trajectory of that franchise, and they have the ability to really expedite their process. And if they go out and use some of this cap space properly, which we'll talk about in a little bit, then they can really propel themselves into a play-in organization. So obviously getting Ivy at 5, Duran at 13, and then getting a great international prospect, Gabriel Procida at 36, it
A
really
lot
couldn't
of
have gone
teams
better for them.
A lot of teams liked him. A lot of teams
Mm-hmm.
liked him. First off, I was saying Detroit's on my league pass next year. I can't wait, barring injury.
Mm-hmm.
I think somebody on Twitter told me I was like a bandwagon guy, and I went, "Yes, I am." There's no reason to watch Detroit pass like for any other reason rather than that right there.
Mm-hmm.
What an exciting time to be like a Pistons fan, right? First, you get Cade, who's a great player, three level scorer to an extent, defends well enough, really has great vision, has the size, has the temperament to be a leader. You know what I mean? Like you got like this dude who's already going to be really good, triple double machine probably, right? And then you get Jaden Ivey on top of it, who offensively has the explosion of Russell Westbrook, young Russell Westbrook, and he shoots it way better. I mean, his improvement from freshman to sophomore year was like night and day, right? I think he added like 7 percentage points or 8 percentage points in an offseason, which is crazy good. Yeah, he has some flaws. Defensively, he's not great. He has some things he has to work on. But I'll tell you what, having Jalen Duren back there to rim protect a little bit, and then offensively as a vertical threat, like those lobs are going to be crazy. The lobs from Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey to Duren are going to be crazy. And then, the kind of the thing in the background for me is, do they go after Ayton? If they do, I would. Well, I'm in Detroit. What do I got to lose? Let's go. Let's do this. Like two young, explosive guards that complement each other. We got a good big to back up. If Ayton gets hurt, he'll probably play 66 games a year. And Ayton and Duren can play in some minutes together because they're young and athletic and they can move, decent. Man, that's fun, isn't it? Man, that's a fun team. They really traded Jeremy Grant for Jalen Duren. That's really what it came down to as the trade. Which, man, I'm
Definitely an
excited, man.
exciting time to be following that organization, and I think a lot of people will be joining you on that league pass bandwagon. I definitely will as well.
Ooh, can you imagine Cade throwing those lobs? Oh my God, it's gonna be
And
it's gonna be some of the best basketball from a developmental standpoint that you get to watch. Like it's gonna be great.
mm-hmm. And kudos, to Jaden Ivey going through his draft process too, where he really him and his camp leveraging their power to get him to Detroit. Obviously, not working out or being involved in any way with Sacramento during the pre-draft process.
Yeah.
He really made his path to the organization where he feels like he can succeed the best. And, I wish Keegan Murray all the best in that organization as well. I think he's a super talented player and is going to be in a position to succeed. But the Ivy to an Ivy Cade duo is just undeniable in terms of what Ivy can do off the ball and what Cade can create for him. So it's 10 out of 10 is what I gotta say.
I am just floored by how good his agent, Jaden Ivey's agent, finessed that.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like they did a good job of. I think his agent is Aaron Mintz.
CAA, is he?
Yeah, Aaron Mintz did a great job leveraging him and getting him out of a situation he didn't want to be in. So good for
Definitely.
Detroit. Detroit, you guys are on. You guys are on the clock.
So next up we got OKC obviously used a fair bit of their draft capital, not just in this draft, but also in some of the trades they were involved with. They definitely let some picks fly in this draft. They got obviously Chet at 2. They traded to get back into the first round, getting Ousmane Dieng at 11 from New York, and then used Jalen Williams.
12. Without giving 12.
Without getting Jalen Williams out of Santa Clara for the very next pick at 12, and then going to get the other Jalen Williams at 34 in the second round. That trade to get back in was one of the highlights of the first round. So they gave up 3 protected firsts to New York to get that pick. I haven't seen the exact protections on them. I think they may all be some form of lottery protected, give or take a few picks. But I'm interested to see, long term, how many of those picks actually convey what New York will be able to turn those picks into. I'm pretty sure the last pick, if it doesn't convey, it may turn into 2 seconds. So the ball's really up in the air in terms of this return as to what New York will get out of it. Hopefully they find value. Otherwise, we'll be talking. I mean, we already will be talking about them as in the loser category of this trade, but hopefully we won't be talking about them as losers in the subsequent years after getting these picks. But any other thoughts about OKC?
I believe they sent the Detroit pick they had, the Washington pick they had, and the Denver pick they had. I believe that's what I have down here.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. So you got to think that those. So you guys are on notradeclause.com. I think everything was updated here. Yeah. The Knicks got the Detroit first, 19 through 30. They get it if it's 19-30. 17 to 30. I'm sorry, 17 to 30. So Detroit, they probably won't get next year. They'll probably ultimately, you got to think that they'll get it in 24 or 25. They'll definitely get it in 26, 9 through 30. If not, then you get 27 second to the Knicks. They got this Washington 15 through 30, 13 through 30, 11 through 30 year after year. And then they have, that's what they get. That's what they get. If it's protected 1 through 15, 1 through 13, 1 through 11. And then I don't know if it was the Denver one. It might have been the Dallas one.
I think it was Denver.
Was it Denver? I don't see Denver on the list here. So yeah, I think it was Denver. Anyway, so the Knicks did a good job of getting some future picks that what it looks like to me is they're loading up on picks so they can trade for somebody. Who is that guy? I mean, you can name everybody, but also they were trying to get money for Jalen Brunson, I think, on top of that. I kind of felt for the Knicks fans. It was weird seeing they had Jalen Duren. It didn't make sense. On Twitter, I was putting it, that doesn't make sense. Like, why would the Knicks take him? They already have, you know, a center who's young and pretty
I mean,
cheap, right?
Mitchell's going to be a free agent, so I think a lot of people may have been trying to see get Duren back, get another big back on a value contract because they may not have wanted to pay Mitchell.
How
But
much
you're
is he
just
going to
kind of
make,
kicking
though?
the
That's the
can.
question. How much do you really think is he going to get? 20 million a year? No.
Yeah.
Like that, the money that you're going to be paying the 13th pick isn't, unless he's making 12 to 13. It's really hard for me to like justify that in sense of the pick, right? But going back to OKC, let's just go back to OKC. I feel for you Knicks fans. I'm like so sorry that you were confused because I was confused too, and I've been doing this for, I don't know, 12, 13 years, like, and I can tell you, like, I was confused too. OKC monster, just a monster draft for them. You have to remember that they have all these picks. They have to trade. Like, if they have a guy they like and they think has a ton of potential, like, they got to go after him because they're not going to have the roster spots over time to just have these guys, right? I mean, I think we were talking, it was like 2026. They had 8 first-round picks or something like that, or 7 first-round picks or something. You know what I mean? Like, you had to start unloading some of this stuff if you found a guy who you'd really like. And I like Yang, or Jang. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly, but I like him. I think he's a really good player. I thought when they traded up for him, I was like, oh, that's great for them. That's like a classic OKC thing to do. I thought they gave 12 up, and then here they come. They pick Jalen Williams. I am not as high on that Jalen Williams. I actually like the other Jalen Williams better for an NBA standpoint. I'm not sure that this Jalen Williams is going to fit in the NBA. I like his game. I like that he shoots it well. I mean, he's a late bloomer, for quote unquote late bloomer. I worry about him against NBA defenses. Like, what does he do that you can rely on night in and night out when he's getting guarded by PJ Tucker and Miles Bridges, and you know what I mean? Like, guys who can really, really defend. Drew Holiday when he switches out on him. Like, what's he going to do against these teams? Because ultimately you're here for, to get to the playoffs and ultimately win this thing. So when you get to the playoffs, you got to hope he develops something offensively that he can find in the flow, right? He can find within his skill set that defines him in a playoff scenario or a scenario where, there's pressure, whether it's a play-in game or whatnot. I love the pick. I love Chet at 2. I knew the whole time they were going to take Chet after I realized Orlando wasn't. Sam will swing for the fences. He will. That is the one thing about Sam. People are saying he accumulates all these picks and doesn't do anything. Sam swings for the fences when it comes, right? He does. And he took the guy with probably the most upside of all 3 guys. So it's going to be super interesting. And, I think he fits well with Giddey a lot. I think Shea's a really good – I think the skills all match with each other, right? I don't know where Jalen Williams is going to play in that. Is Lou Dort kind of that anchor at that point? Like, how does Lou Dort and him play together? I'm not sure. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah, that's not a lot of offense.
No, and I mean, Jalen Williams can score. Like, he can score. I'm not worried about, like, can he score against, Pat Connaughton. I'm worried, like, when it's crunch time, he's the 12th pick in the draft. Anytime you're a lottery pick, you're supposed to come and make an impact, right? Like, that's your whole thing, is like, I can take anybody else that's out there, but I'm picking you in the lottery because I think you can make an impact or you have high upside. Like, how's he going to finish with bigs like Rudy Gobert? You know what I mean? Like, he didn't have to play any Rudy Goberts growing up. I looked at some of his high school stuff too, like, and his AAU stuff like that. He didn't play Rudy Gobert. He didn't. I think he played Jalen Duren once, maybe. But you know what I mean? Like, going to Santa Clara, and I'm not saying it's bad at all because I'm not. I mean, it's a testament to him. But, like, I'm not sure. Let's just put it that way. I'm not sure where he fits. Love Chet. Love Jang. I think Jang's got huge upside. He is 100% bust or, Durant. Maybe not Durant, but a guy who can like really, really, really play at a high level. So
I would add that I think after this draft, it's become clear that OKC and their front office they have a type of prospect
yeah.
like positional size, positional length, specifically guys who are really smart and have a high basketball IQ. And I think, this matches up with their draft philosophy. And if they keep going like this, then it should, pan out as a recipe for success for them. So if they're sticking to their guns and they've got, it's very clear that they have a draft philosophy and they have a draft game plan, not only for this draft, but for their whole rebuild, their whole draft arsenal. So we'll see how it plays out. But if they keep valuing the things that they do now, then I don't see how it could truly go wrong.
I mean, anything can go wrong anytime. You can't bank on that, but the process is going really well. I like Jalen Williams from other Jalen Williams from Arkansas. I love his competitiveness. I love his skill as a big. I think he's going to be like Nick Collison type guy. You know what I mean? Like, I think Nick Collison obviously was drafted way higher, but I think the same type of impact from an NBA standpoint. I like Jalen Williams a lot, especially at 34.
Definitely. Well, I want to hit on two more teams just really quick. Both had guys slide to them who some people may have had higher. The first being Atlanta getting AJ Griffin at 16 may have been a nice surprise for them. And I'm sure that probably lit up some eyes in their draft room when they saw that happen. So kudos to them for capitalizing on what may have been a great player slipping through the cracks. Not letting him go any further was a good on-the-ball adjustment by them.
I thought it was just he fell to them. Injuries, the injury thing was people were scared of on him were the injuries. At 17, it's such a I had him at 8. I had him at 8 for the longest time. Getting him at 17 is a coup. I think Atlanta's front office was sitting there going, "Oh my God, is this guy really going to fall to us?" Because I was thinking he was going to go, okay, you don't take him at 8 just because he's a really good culture fit. I thought Washington might really like him, but again, Washington got Johnny Davis, who, it's right in the same boat, right? And when OKC was up, I didn't think they were going to go for a player like AJ Griffin because they already have it. They don't have the shooting, obviously, but they have that position already kind of filled, right? And they went with a guy who had a lot of upside. I'm like, okay, great. Then they went Jalen Williams, which we'll see how that goes. I hope it works out. And then Charlotte had their whole deal, moving Duran, getting more value. They had Mark Williams on the back burner to get their big. And then the Cavs at 14 just dropped to Ochai Agbaji, like just fell in his lap, fell in their lap. Like, that was great. And Atlanta just sitting here going, we'll take the guy who's probably in any other draft probably is chosen between 8 and 12. I mean, that's a great pick. I mean,
yeah, and
it's easy when things fall to you.
It honestly may even frustrate Knicks fans even more, knowing that a player like AJ Griffin was on the board, and yet you still made the moves you did. But who knows? It's more likely than not that they had a guy that they were circled and they were set on, and he may have been gone, and so they went into their action plans as we've talked about. And then the last team I wanted.
When you're that far down, you're going off your board most likely.
Yeah. Last team I wanted to touch on real quick. The Warriors, they seem to be drafting seems to be quite a specialty of theirs, as we've seen. And in the late first round, going and getting Pat Baldwin, I think is an incredible fit for him. And that he'll have all the time in the world and all the resources to be able to develop there with no pressure, not only to, get his confidence back up, but to just keep working at his game every day. And it's truly like a recipe for success to be in that championship culture, but also have other young guys around him who are going through the same type of stuff he is in terms of his development.
Yeah, there was talk, if you remember, at the beginning of the year that he was a lottery pick.
Oh
There was a
yeah.
lot of talk about him
Mhm.
being a lottery pick and him being a guy who um, could finally break, get in that be a mid-major guy who makes it to the league and really makes an impact. And I mean, I felt like again, Golden State. Bob does a great job. Bob Myers does a great job of not pressing the panic button. Like he just, I don't need to move up. There's other guys. Like I'm cool.
Mhm.
Um, and he knew he had talent here because you had, although I can guarantee you they were not a big Ty Washington fan. He's still a talent, right? He still has some talent. I mean, you had guys. Listen to this line of people that were still sitting there at 28. You had Baldwin, Ty Washington, Peyton Washington, um, Kennedy Chandler, Caleb Houston, Koloko, Jalen Williams, Jaden Hardy, EJ Liddell, Trevor Keels. Like you had guys, like you had really good players that any one of those dudes could have been, any one of those guys could have been 29. Look, I think everybody can agree. Everybody that I just read off could have been the 29th pick in the draft, right?
Mhm.
Even Andrew
Definitely.
Nemhard. Even Andrew Nemhard could have been the 29th pick in the draft.
Mhm.
So for them to pick a guy who has positional size, has good offensive skill sets, fits what they're doing, how they play their offense, and the way they attack things. That was a really good pick. I think they
Yeah,
always do a solid job, and see how it works out for them.
definitely. I mean, overall, I really think that I just think this was all around just a very solid draft. I think a lot of teams did well, and a lot of teams just ticked the boxes they need to and kept it moving. And it was just good business all around. But we did have a few hiccups and a few question marks, mainly from the Knicks. We've kind of touched on. Um, the that would probably be, I think, my biggest loser if I had to pick one. But again, winners, losers, it's all very relatively short-sighted conversations. It's better to revisit these things a few years and see the repercussions and what these trades end up turning into and the type of players that you end up netting. So we've kind of talked enough about the Knicks and their shortcomings. But is there anything you'd like to add, and maybe another team who you felt could have done a better job for themselves in this draft?
Well, on a stick to a positive note here, just real quick. The Pelicans they did a great job of not reinventing the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Dyson Daniels fell right to him at 8. Not a hard choice. Not hard. Like as soon as Portland, I'm sure as soon as Portland took, um, why am I drawing a blank here? Shaden Sharp. As soon as they took Sharp, I'm sure the Pelicans guys were jumping up and down. They got Dyson Daniels, who just is another great fit for them. You know what I mean? Really good
Mm-hmm.
player, high level talent, really good fit, like great. And then again at 41 got EJ Liddell, who was in most mocks a first round guy or early second, and he fell
Mm-hmm.
to everybody. And I gotta say, like I was really impressed. Like they didn't try to do too much, and they still have their whole war chest of picks as well. Don't forget they have a bunch of ammo as well that they can get off guys if they need to get off Valanciunas at some point, and they have if they want to take players. They have a really good look. They have good looking books and they have good looking draft coming up. I mean, they get the swap next year. Then they have the swap with Milwaukee, or they have the swap with the Lakers next year. They have the swap with Milwaukee in 24. They have the Lakers unprotected in 24 as well. And there's no guarantee the Lakers are going to be good. What if LeBron gets up and goes to Golden State? I mean, that could be real. That's what I'm saying. You're looking at this like they are in such a good position. If you need to get off Valanciunas, one of those Lakers Milwaukee first probably gets you off Valanciunas because he'll make $15 million in not this upcoming year, but the year after, and that's when everybody's extensions really kick in, right? With Ingram and Zion, and then you still have CJ on the books. You're gonna have to extend the rookies that were coming in. Jackson Hayes, like those guys, you're going to have to decide whether you're going to extend them or not. So they're sitting in a really good spot. I like their books a lot. I like OKC's a lot. So we'll see how it goes. But biggest loser for me is the Knicks from a draft perspective. If they get Jalen Brunson, I guess it's okay. They're in a tough spot. The way their books are just off with money given to talent and talent given to money, and the way they play. It's just like everything's kind of off for me. Any other losers really? Like I wouldn't call Chicago a loser. I think they got a good player. Sacramento, I can't call the number 4 pick a loser. So I think Keegan's he'll be fine.
It's just you don't feel like they're gonna get like
Yeah.
There are teams that you can confidently say like they got better after this draft. Like
Yeah, I
yes, you
can't
got
say
Keegan Murray,
Sacramento
but
got
can
better.
I confidently say like Sacramento's gonna get better? Like,
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't think so. Sneaky good was the Lakers pick at 35. Max Christie fell to him, and they didn't know Max Christie was going to be there. But tell you what, a lot of upside with Max Christie, right? So I thought the Lakers did a good job. Losers, like there's really, to me, you can't call Phoenix a loser. They weren't really into it. I don't know. Other than the Knicks, I don't really know that there
Yeah,
is.
that's what I'm saying.
I don't really know if there is. I mean, I've been trying to think about it, and I'm looking back through the team list right now. I just don't see it. I don't see where any other loser than otherwise everybody was solid or they didn't have picks. Like Brooklyn didn't have anything. So
yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Just solid, good business all around. Everyone stuck to their guns, went through their process, and filled the holes that they needed to, through this method. Obviously, we have a whole new slate of player movement coming up soon that hopefully, if you didn't go get a guy to fill this need in the draft, then you'll go get him in free agency. So we'll kind of revisit this conversation in a few weeks' time. And when we get a more clear idea of what rosters start to look like, we can maybe then go back to the draft and say, maybe if they weren't as keen on this position in the draft or in free agency, they could have tried to address it in the draft. So
our next podcast will be at Summer League, don't forget.
Oh yeah.
While we're watching,
we'll have a whole lot of content out there, and now would probably be a good time to mention, a lot of our No Trade Clause crew will be out at Summer League throughout the week. If you see any of us, please don't hesitate to stop us. We love talking to our listeners and engaging with everyone who follows our stuff, and you guys are the main reason why we're here, doing this work, and we love talking about what we have going on. So please, if you see us around the concourse, don't hesitate to stop us, and we'd be happy to talk for a second. But kind of shifting gears now, going into more of some of the news on the team side, a bit away from the draft. We have 2 teams that have been in the news more recently. We'll start off with Brooklyn. Their situation is kind of going from bad to worse by the day. I wanted to, before we dive into the nitty-gritty of the situation, I want to just get a quick temperature check from you, Dan. What would you rate your concern level for Brooklyn out of 10 as to their stars leaving, the team falling apart? Where out of 10, where would you give it?
I'm not worried because Kyrie doesn't have any leverage. The only thing I'm worried about is Durant. I'm not. As of right now, Irving's just a headache. He's played 100 and some odd games over the last 3 seasons. Like, I'm not sitting here from a basketball standpoint. He's not holding me hostage. Yeah, we got him. If he wants to play with us, that's great. We want to have him. We want him to get better and do better and be better and play more games and be Kyrie Irving. Like, that's what we want. We don't want anything other than that, right? And lead us to a championship. But if he doesn't want to do that, he doesn't want to do that, but he doesn't have any leverage. His value for himself isn't there. So the only issue that I have moving forward that I'm worried about, I'm going to manage Kyrie and make sure he feels good and, all the basic stuff that goes with it. But my key is Durant. If Durant asks for a trade, I'm in trouble, right? I'm in total rebuild. And you could just keep Durant and Irving. You don't have to trade anybody, right? You don't have to get off them. But what kind of team are you if your two best players don't want to be there? They're not going to
Yeah,
listen to your coaches. They're going to get disgruntled. It's going to be negative around the whole workplace the whole time. Like you're not going to win a championship that way. You're just not. If you think you are, you're probably out of your mind. So if Durant says I want out, then I just go, I'm going to rebuild this whole thing. I'm going to get so many picks. I'm going to get so many young players that I will succeed in over the next 5 years. You know what I mean? Like we're going to in 3 years we'll probably be back in the playoffs, if not sooner. But if we're not 5 years from now, we're absolutely going to be a contender, right? So that's kind of how I would look at it.
definitely. And I'd also like to add that, I think this is just a storm. This is just a storm that they're going through right now. And if they're able to just weather the storm, they have all the tools needed to get back into this conversation. Ben Simmons, hopefully he could get back on the floor and have an impact that we're used to. But even regardless of that, you're bringing back two of the best shooting perimeter threats. You got Curry and Joe Harris coming off injury. You hope to have them for a full season each. Kessler Edwards, I think, has emerged as a really valuable piece for them on considering the money that he's on. And, you have some cap tools to go out and get, big men. They have the tax MLE to target some big men that could, on the younger side, that could grow with this team, like a Jalen Smith, who, had a bit of a resurgence when he got traded to Indiana. Isaiah Hartenstein, who was valuable for the Clippers. Or even if you want, go get another veteran who can be a little more impactful than some of the guys that you currently have, like a JaVale McGee, I think could work nicely for them. Rather, because a lot of their free agents, you got Aldridge, Griffin, these older guys, older bigs, and I think it's time to get some new blood in that front court to help out the stars. So I think they definitely have the keys to kind of retool and get back where they need to. They just need to, like I said, weather this storm and get through the New York media in an off season. And I think they can do it. So I'm probably more optimistic than maybe a fair bit of people. But
who are some trade partners? Say Durant wants out. How would you trade Durant first, then Irving, or would you trade Irving then Durant? Would you what teams would you be targeting that's realistic?
I mean, you have to start with the teams with the biggest arsenal, right? The biggest draft capital. So you could talk to OKC, you could talk to New Orleans, you could talk to who else would have.
He's not going to New Orleans. I can tell you that he won't go to New Orleans.
I mean, yeah, the smaller markets are obviously less appealing, but I think that's at least a place to start to gauge the market,
OKC is interesting. Does he want to do a redemption tour? If somehow they could keep Chet, you got him, Chet. You're probably not going to be able to keep Giddey in this instance. You got to trade. Well, no, you trade Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, so maybe you could keep Giddey and Holmgren and Dang, and you have Durant around them. That's interesting to me, right?
Yeah,
that's an interesting scenario.
Shai would definitely be the cornerstone in that deal,
right?
Sure.
Or is it Giddey who's the cornerstone? I'm just talking through this. Obviously, is it Giddey who's the cornerstone with a bunch of picks? But the money has to match up. You got to get money right and whatnot. And,
yeah, that's why Shai makes
SGA would be the guy.
Yeah,
but that's a pretty good. You can't tell me that's not a contending team in year two. Chet,
no, I mean
Giddey,
definitely
Durant, and they still have some picks left in OKC. So, and my guess is they would probably get a free agent out of that. Believe it or not, OKC is a good place to play. They take care of their players. Sam is a player's guy. They take care of their people. You know what I mean? And they've had success. It's not like they haven't had success.
On the flip side, if you trade Kyrie first, maybe you do get back a package that, or maybe you legit bring Kevin into the office while you're taking these calls, fielding these calls. You put the guy in hold. Hey, Kevin, like, how does this sound to you? Like, would you want to work with these guys? Like, and you really get him in on it and get him to buy back into, what Brooklyn is doing. Obviously, you're giving a player a lot of power in that situation, but he's can be that type of guy. So it could be an interesting counter argument to see who you get off first.
I wouldn't touch that with Durant. It's too late for that. Mm-hmm. If it's Damian Lillard, yeah, I'm pulling him in. If it's LeBron, I'm pulling him in. You know what I'm saying? Like guys who will work back with you. And I'm not saying Durant won't. I just think that ship has kind of sailed by now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have to turn like a 180. And I'm not saying that's the thing. I'm not saying Durant wouldn't work with people because he's obviously worked with them in the past. How do you think he got to Golden State, right? And so he'll work with you at points, but I think that ship has sailed with Brooklyn. I don't think you can go to him and say, hey, unless you're getting LeBron or, I don't know, John Morant, you know what I mean? Like it's going to have to be someone who like is beyond, a major impact.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Well, we do have another team to check in with as well. Portland has been in the news, obviously, with their recent acquisition, Jeremy Grant. They have some salary cap news. Josh Hart contract recently went from completely non-guaranteed to fully guaranteed for his $13 million this season. They'll likely be operating as an over-the-cap team. And these recent moves just kind of affirm their organization's stance, I think, as we're trying to do a retool around Damian to prove to him that we are interested in winning games here versus a rebuild, a full rebuild. And they did end up keeping their pick, and they, as we kind of touched on, they selected Shaedon. But I'm curious how you think Shaedon can contribute to what his impact can be on this team who's retooling and trying to go win games. There are a lot of guys on that team who will likely he'll be having to like split minutes with. They got Joe Ingles, people forget. Eric Bledsoe is on that roster. Who knows what'll happen with him? And
Anthony Simons.
Yeah, Simons was surging last year. How does Shaedon carve his path on that team?
I mean, that's my struggle with that pick. Mm-hmm. I get what, I think having Mike Schmitz come on helped them make a more confident decision with him, because if anybody's seen Sharp more than Schmitz, it's probably not true, So I think if there's a team that could take Shaedon Sharp, it was Portland, because they do have the information, more information than most other teams, right? When it came to him. Mm-hmm. It's tough though, man. If anybody's been listening to me either on this podcast or stuff I've talked about or at Sports Business Classroom, one of my philosophies is where are the minutes, right? If you pick a young guy, whether first or second round, it doesn't matter, and you think they can play and they think that you can help their team, why are you picking a guy who plays the same position as your best player? Unless you think he can play with him, which he might be able to. And even then, it's still not going to be enough reps. You know what I mean? It's just not going to be enough reps because you're playing the same position. So it's a great insurance policy if Dame does decide to leave, or he does decide that it's time to move on. Good insurance policy, right? I just struggle with, if you re-sign Simons, right? And your opening day, and we'll just say that Ingles is not hurt, right? Like he's recovered and he's back to somewhat the way he was. So your opening day lineup is Lillard, Grant, Ingles, Nurkic, Josh Hart.
Maybe, or like you could substitute Simons for one of those guys.
Simons, sure. Okay. Mm-hmm. Simons, I mean, Hart gives you a little more versatility. Him and Grant are going to be good defensively together. Mm-hmm. Sure, if you want to go Simons instead of Hart and bring Hart off the bench, or if you I don't see Shaden Sharp unless he like is killing it starting, because then you're
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you could make
you
whatever
see what I mean?
substitution you want,
Yeah,
but
you can't have
Shaden's not in that mix.
right. And so okay, he comes off the bench. Cool. Dame needs a rest, but Dame plays 34 minutes a game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they play together. That's fine, but Dame's going to get the majority of the looks because any coach in the league is going to go to Dame more than he is Shaden Sharp, right? So it's I get why they did it. I think it's an insurance policy more than it is a development policy, or like they're trying to contract develop there. We've talked about that before. My terminology. OKC does contract development and contract rehab. That's what you really want to do if you're ultimately wanting to move off of a guy down the road. You're trying to either rehab it or build the contract, right? So I don't know. I'm a little lost. Again, I don't think Portland lost because they got a good talent. Like the kid, Shane Sharp can play. It's just a matter of how good is he going to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Dyson Daniels, for example, Dyson Daniels is a much better fit for what they were trying to do, right? But they went for and said, well, we're going to take a shot at Shaden Sharp being a running mate with Damian Lillard, which is great. I just don't know how he gets there if he doesn't get the minutes, because you have Simons, you have Bledsoe still sitting there too. You got Josh Hart eating up minutes at the two in some positions. Where's the minutes? Now, they may make a move in free agency where they get off, if they can get off, maybe it's a sign and trade with Simons, or they can get something back. But as of this moment, where it stands, it's a little hard for me to envision this working out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think Portland definitely needs to make an effort on their end if they're interested in, seeing this prospect maximize his potential. They need to make some adjustments either with their rotation, or the front office needs to get on the phones and make something happen over these next few weeks. But either way, he's in there, and he's surrounded by, obviously Mike will take good care of him and vouch for him and go to bat, which I think will be key for him having a voice in that front office and make sure he's prioritized in the present and future. So it's a bit of a mixed bag for him in terms of his outlook. But, that's aside from that, that's all I have marked down for us today. Dan, do you have any extra tidbits you want to touch on? Any other pieces we haven't touched on yet?
No, I think that's pretty much, the basis of it. I'm really interested in what Portland's going to do. I would think that there's a move connected to this, or there's something that they think they can get or do with this move. It doesn't sit right that this would be their lineup. This would be their team moving forward. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. Very interested to see what the Knicks do, especially if the Knicks don't get Jalen Brunson. What next? You know what I mean? If they don't get Brunson, which I don't think they will, I think he's going to go right back to Dallas, because he'll be getting paid just about the same amount of money to go back to a Western Conference Finals team with arguably a top 5 player, where they're going to keep winning.
Even more years in Dallas with the Bird
Exactly.
rights.
I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense to move on from Dallas right now. You have Luka, who's going to be there forever, and literally you're going to get to the second round of the playoffs every single year, and you're going to be in the contender conversation every single year. It doesn't make sense to me to go to New York, where you don't know whether Tibbs is going to be the coach long term. Julius Randle is there, so there's possessions he's going to be eating up. Evan Fournier is still there too, so how does that work? Are they just giving you the rock and you're doing whatever? But they have RJ Barrett, who they're trying to develop. I don't think the fit is great for Jalen Brunson in terms of a basketball standpoint. I'm not sure where he fits in that, because he has a great role in Dallas. Great role. He doesn't have to be the guy, but he can be the guy on any given night if Luka needs it. So,
and he makes the money he'll be making the money as if he is the guy. So if you,
right.
so that's a great deal if I'm him. So
We'll see. If I'm a Knicks fan right now, I'm sitting here. I'm a little worried about this upcoming year. It's another year of mediocrity. It's another year of honestly, the only thing that I would be excited for is to watch RJ Barrett get better and Obi Toppin get better. And if Julius plays at an all-star level again, then yeah, you might have some excitement there. But I just think it's going to be tough.
Yeah, you kind of, if I would love to see, if you keep Toppin, Quickly, and RJ as your core, and then you just trim the fat all around, and then you just kind of start from there. I think that would be fun to watch for me as an outsider looking in, because as you said, there's no real direction right now, and I think that would be like a good way to just kind of hit the reset button, and hopefully with the draft capital you get back, and being in a big market, being in New York, and once you kind of get the ball rolling, as like Cleveland has been doing, then it's easier to attract free agents, especially to New York City, and then you kind of get on that runway. So that's how I would like to see it pan out. Whether it goes that way is a different story, but yeah, that's I think that's all we got. So we're gonna wrap it up here. But as I mentioned, we will be out at in Las Vegas. We'll be recording content out there again. If you see any of the No Trade Clause team, please don't hesitate to stop. We'd love to talk to you. And Dan will be out in Vegas doing work with Sports Business Classroom. I think you'll be teaching, right, Dan? So you'll be getting in the scouting video analytics department.
Yep. Well, yeah, I am running the scouting department with Dave DeFore at SBC. We are just about full. It's going to be a full house. This is so if you're interested in signing up, I think Larry Kuhn said there's maybe a spot left, 1, 2, somewhere in there. We're almost at capacity, so it's going to be a great year. A lot of great energy. I love doing this stuff. It's so much fun. And the networking that happens in the education, the networking is unparalleled, as you know, Oliver.
Yeah, I mean, it's how I got my start, and one of the main reasons why I'm here today. So if you still have any further questions, reach out to me. My Twitter, it's OLA_hoops. You can catch Dan. I am _Dan P. And we'll be back in Vegas recording our content, and be sure to catch us out there. Thanks, guys.
That's 2 weeks from now, everyone. 2 weeks from now, we'll be back.
2 weeks. There we go.
Some people want it to happen. Some wish it would happen. Others make it happen. I'm Bo Estes, the department chair for media at Sports Business Classroom, and I'm offering you a chance to put into action the words of Michael Jordan and make it happen at the NBA level this summer in Las Vegas. At SBC, each of our students receives extensive, hands-on training from successful professionals currently working in the business, and then our students put that knowledge into play. Each student will handle play-by-play duties as well as analysis, calling multiple NBA games at Summer League. Additionally, our students will work as studio hosts and analysts from our state-of-the-art SBC set located in the atrium of the Thomas and Mack Center. The training and opportunities don't end there, though. Our professionals will teach you the art of storytelling and the skill required to successfully run your social media accounts. This training culminates in a session designed to teach you how to start and grow your media business. Our SBC students will leave Las Vegas with an improved skill set and a refined understanding of the different roles and requirements to work in media. That newfound knowledge is designed to launch a career or supplement a parallel career in the business of basketball. Don't wish it would happen. Make it happen for your career today by visiting sportsbusinessclassroom.com.